Okay. So, ran across something and may have run across this before. I don't even remember. But let me get set up here. I wanted to get into this a little bit. All right. So, ShotSpotter, right? That's what this is about. Um, so, again, I ran into a video just trolling through the LVMPD, site here. And it's about ShotSpotter. And so we look at this. This is from October 17th, 2019. Now, ShotSpotter was always kind of an interesting thing. I know the search says Dell E5570. That was from the last video I did. Um, just redundant. The thing with ShotSpotter is I never got a clear answer on how ShotSpotter works, on what exactly it does. I don't know if I'm going to get a clear answer from this either, really, to be honest with you. But I'm kind of interested to see, um, if we can get, if there is something here. The thing is with ShotSpotter is I want to know how it works, right? And that's kind of my thing, right? I want to know how everything actually functions at a base level, as far as things like the doors, the locks, all that sort of shit. ShotSpotter's no exception. And I've never heard a good somebody who knows it well enough to explain exactly how this thing works. Now I'm guessing, it triangulates sound, right? So you have towers all over Vegas, on the light poles or whatever it happens to be. And when there's a gunshot, it can detect a gunshot. And when it detects that it hears a gunshot, it triangulates that area throughout multiple towers, right? That's how, repeaters work, stuff like that. And so the problem is, if that's the case and that's how this thing actually works, it's a pretty unreliable system. And as far as something like Vegas goes, or as far as something like what happened in 2017 would go, because you're not working on a two-dimensional field. You're not on a wide open plane. Looking at the shot was 100 yards from this place, 100 yards from this place, 100 yards from this place. How do you tell the up and down? How do you tell that? How would one of those things be able to tell that the damn thing was on the 32nd floor and not ground level? Now, maybe you're looking at, it triangulating three towers. I don't know. Maybe it could work, I guess, if you're saying it's triangulating three towers and it's saying it's 400 yards from each of the towers, but the tower's only 100 yards away, which means it would have to be 300 yards in the you know at an upward axis. But I don't know. With something like Vegas, what happened in 2017 there, up on the 32nd floor. um I'm not sure if that would have worked. I mean, even on the other side of Delano, in some of the body cams, we can't even hear the gunshot. So I don't know. This here, I'm kind of curious about this because this video was in 2018, I believe. So was it 2018? Let me look real quick. Look at the info on this thing. So 2019, October 17th, 2019. So I don't know if this is when ShotSpotter is implemented or not. That's why I'm watching this. So I'm kind of curious here as far as this goes, because I honestly don't even know if ShotSpotter was a thing that night. I don't think anyone's ever been able to prove that. I don't think any of the police talked about it on their body cam. So, kind of wanted to get through this. I want to watch this, and I don't want to have to watch it twice. So there may be nothing here. There may be something here. I haven't had a chance to really watch this yet. So I'm gonna do it live, so I don't have to do it twice.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today.
Oh shit! Got to get rid of the. So again, I did have a couple people who claim to be experts on ShotSpotter talk to me and tell me, oh, they know everything about ShotSpotter. But then when I asked them exactly how it works, they basically gave me the answer of it's fucking magic and it can sense fucking where bullets are at by fucking magic. So, I never really got a good answer out of this. So that's kind of why I'm kind of curious about this, because I don't really know much about ShotSpotter, even though I've talked to, multiple people who claim to be experts on this shit. But we'll see.
La Rochelle, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
With me today is
the chair of the county commissioner, Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick, and Commissioners Knapp and Gibson, and Lieutenant Dory Corn of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Technical Operations Center, also with the Fusion Watch. The purpose why we're here today is that we want to announce an exciting and promising development in our gunshot detection program. As many of you know, 2 years ago, we launched a pilot program using gunshot detection technology called ShotSpotter. The program has been tested and has been shown to be quite effective in identifying illegal shootings that normally would go unreported to the
police. All right. So why it's supposed to be on full screen, man? What the fuck? Why is it screwing up on me? All right, we'll just do this. We get the shit. So it said 2 years ago they started this program, which would have made it in 2017. So it could have been active that night.
Police. The program has resulted in faster response times by our police officers to scene, an increase in the collection of evidence such as ballistic casings, bullets, bullet fragments, and we also seen a reduction in violent crime in the area that has been utilized. The pilot program has proven.
Don't believe that shit. I mean, honestly, dude, just because you put a bunch of things on poles to where you can see where shooting was coming from, all of a sudden criminals decide not to do crime. Yeah, no, you're full of shit.
To be valuable. And to this, the LVMPD and Clark County Commission and the Las Vegas City Council have partnered together to expand this program across our valley. The goal is simple. We want to eliminate the cycle of violence that has continued to plague and challenge some of our most underprivileged neighborhoods. These communities have experienced a long history of violence. The vision and hopes of the program is that we'll continue to be able to abate violent crime in these areas. And thanks to our partners at the Clark County Commission, the goal is more achievable than ever. The expansion of the LVMPD ShotSpotter gunshot detection program will involve a substantial increase in the use of this technology, public safety cameras, and other technology that are designed to help protect our community. What we discovered with the use of ShotSpotter is that our identified hotspot areas had unreported gun crimes. Residents living in these areas were simply afraid or did not call the police. And this is an obstacle for police responding to the area. To stop gun violence, we need to know where it's occurring. As a tool, ShotSpotter aids us in pinpointing where the police resources are needed the most.
So I like the idea how he acts like this is a proactive measure, but it's not. It's a reactive measure. It's after somebody's fired a gun, you can find out where they're at. It doesn't necessarily stop violence. I don't know. It's weird. It lets you catch the person.
And subsequently, it helps in getting violent criminals off the street. Lieutenant Dory Corn will provide the insight to the expansion of the project, but first I'd like to introduce the chair of the Clark County Commission, Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick. Commissioner Kirkpatrick was one of the original visionaries of the development of this program, and she was one of the main reasons why we were successful in the launching the pilot program back in 2017. Her work, combined with the support of the entire Clark County Commission and City Council, is the reason we have the opportunity to expand this innovative and ultra-effective crime-fighting tool across the valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. And I first want to say thank you to Captain La Rochelle, because this really started 2 years ago with the conversation about the
La Rochelle. Huh. The name sounds familiar. I think I read that somewhere.
The Northeast Area Command, and what tools could we give to our officers to ensure that they can get to where those violent crimes were happening, but also what could we do to give the neighborhood a little bit of hope that we were responding. So 2 years ago, Captain La Rochelle and I started with ShotSpotter as a pilot program, but I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the cooperative extension. The cooperative extension stepped up along with the Las Vegas Police Foundation and helped us fund the first amount to have ShotSpotter for the first 2 years in the Northeast. And there are some areas along the Maryland Parkway corridor. What I can tell you today, it is my honor to represent the County Commission to having the vision to move forward to expand this program. We'll have 23 and a half miles total. And what I can tell you is ShotSpotter has made a difference. It's made a difference for our officers. It's made a difference for the kids in the area who would say that, you know, they don't want to go out and get their laundry from the washing machine because they hear gunfire. And so now we've been.
The fuck? The kid's really telling you that shit? You talk to a kid that told you he doesn't want to go get his fucking laundry? Like the kids are doing the fucking laundry? Give me a break, dude. Come on. Get your shit together. Find a better story. Use the ice cream man as a fucking thing, not the fucking laundry. You kids ain't doing your fucking laundry.
Been able to change that message, and we've been able to stay on top of it. So with the help of the Clark County Commission, we will be expanding it in areas that have many issues, and we at the county are committed to address all of those issues. What we learned in the beginning is that it was more than just gunshot detection. There were a lot of other issues that went with it. But when we collaborated and addressed all of those issues at once, we were able to see significant reductions in violent crimes. So I'm thankful that the Clark County Commission supported me. I'm pleased that the city of Las Vegas has worked very closely with us.
Other issues? Like what other issues? What the fuck you talking about? This thing like detects gunshots. So what else is it doing? You're crazy. It's fucking stupid.
To help ensure that we have all of the proper locations. And with that, I'd like you to see and appreciate what ShotSpotter has done for our community and what it will do. So with that, I'll have Lieutenant Corin come up here and give you some real data on things that we've seen that can make a difference.
Thank you for the introduction, Commissioner. Good morning, folks. As mentioned earlier, my name is Dory Corin. I'm Lieutenant with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I have the pleasure of overseeing our technical operations section, which is responsible for the deployment of advanced technologies for both combating crime and terrorism. I also have the
terrorism. Brought that word into it. What about stopping riots and shit? Well, this was 2019, so this is before all that.
Opportunity, or had the opportunity to lead the pilot program in 2017, and now I'm overseeing the expansion of ShotSpotter technology as a larger part of that initial pilot program. Before I get into some of the details of why this program is particularly valuable and what we've learned over the past year and a half or so, I'd like to talk about how collaborative it's been from the beginning and is certainly now. The program, which is not just based on ShotSpotter, but just a gunshot detection program where we have a lot of different technologies that play a role into it, ShotSpotter being the key one in terms of detecting the shootings, but also the other crime fighting efforts and other technologies and the community partnerships are really the reasons why this program has been so successful thus far. In addition to that, the collaboration has been incredible. So from the very beginning, the support from the commissioners, not only the chair of the commission, but the entire county commission right now behind this effort to try to help our communities in reducing violent crime. And then certainly within the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, everyone from the sheriff on down has been very supportive. And in particular, I'd like to just point out the area command captains have been incredible in launching this within their areas.
This is a good class in being a politician and saying absolutely nothing for like 2 minutes straight.
Their community-oriented policing units have been incredible in helping us. And then we also have a program management team, the initial one that started in 2017 as well as now. I can't name every single person on the team because there's many of them, but they have also proved essential in launching this effort. So the reality is that, combined with all the community partners we have, various organizations, as well as the citizens who have voluntarily signed up to help us launch this program within their neighborhoods, has really made a big difference. Now, with that, I'd like to get a little bit into what ShotSpotter.
Citizens? Really? You going neighborhood to neighborhood asking like, can we put an antenna in your backyard or something? That's weird.
Is, and then why it's particularly valuable. Last time we talked about how it is a gunshot detection system. Just for anyone who is now just listening and hearing about this program, it is essentially a network of audio sensors that are designed to pick up impulse sounds that resemble gunfire. The idea is that if a sound that resembles gunfire, such as any kind of loud bang, it could be a fireworks, it could be a helicopter overhead, it could be backfire of a vehicle, and then it certainly can be gunfire, that system captures that sound, analyzes it, and tries to determine whether it actually is gunfire or something else. Once that system determines that, it triangulates the location.
That's funny, because some ass clown tried to tell me they could tell exactly what kind of bullet was fired when this thing was out. I don't know.
Location of that sound.
And if he sees this, he's going to be pissed, but fuck him.
And then provides it to the police agency so that way they can investigate the tip of information or the lead of information. How we use it is what really makes a difference, because if you talk to folks that have this type of technology, we're not the first. It's all over the United States in different cities. People have had different varying levels of success. Our level of success, I think, goes into how we actually deploy the technology and how serious we take the information. So, for example, imagine this. If one of your neighborhoods, no matter where you live in the city or the county, imagine if you hear a gunshot sound go off or some kind of sound that resembles gunfire. That system normally, imagine that no one calls the police, which we've discovered happens quite often with gunshot sounds, or shootings that don't have any victims. The system would capture that sound, triangulate the location. They have an incident review center that where a human expert listens.
Okay, so yeah, that person that talked to me obviously didn't know what he was talking about, because he said it was like fucking fairy dust and shit that made this thing fucking work. It's triangulation. It's sound triangulation.
The sound tries to determine whether it really is gunfire or something else. And in a matter of anywhere from 15 to 70 seconds, they provide that information to law enforcement. We receive it at Fusion Watch, which is a unit responsible for using a variety of technologies to be able to detect crime in general. Once that is received by Fusion Watch, they broadcast it over the radio. Our dispatch creates or generates a call for service to go investigate the matter, and our patrol officers respond to it. So in this case, imagine you heard just a few gunshots near your neighborhood.
And we know Fusion Center was a thing that night, so yeah.
The police all of a sudden responded. They were able to get there so quickly because the system was able to identify the sound very fast, and no one called the police, so the police were able to respond because of the system. And when the police get there, they find a shooter, or they find an individual who looks suspicious, who's leaving the area, and they stop that individual based on reasonable suspicion, and then they locate a loaded firearm on that person, and then they...
In other words, profiling. Nice way to put it, I guess.
Talk to the individual, and ultimately he confesses to conducting the shooting. That's what this technology can do, and that's how we use it to basically catch people that are conducting shootings.
I love how that's like the perfect fucking scenario, right? That like never happens, of course. But yeah, this thing tells us there was a gunshot fired. We go there. There just happens to be some dude walking down the street that looks suspicious. We stop him. He admits he did a shooting, and then we arrest him. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't happen that way.
Arrest them for the illegal shooting, recover firearms, recover evidence, and do a variety of other things that help us reduce crime. Now, briefly, I'll talk about some of the benefits. You guys may have seen this statistic before when we first ran it, and part of the reason why we're expanding this technology is we discovered after that first pilot assessment, within 9 months, there were 487 potential gunshot events that we identified.
Holy shit. 400 what? That's I'm guessing that doesn't include padding.
Of the 487, 65% approximately were unreported to the police. That was a key figure for us to determine that this was a valuable technology that we could use in a variety of other ways moving forward with this expansion.
And their potential gunshot events. So, like you said, backfires, shit like that. So, the 487 may not be entirely accurate.
The fact that we have such a large number of illegal shootings that go unreported makes it critical for us to find a way to be able to detect those shootings and respond to them so that way the community knows we're dealing with it. Now, while I talk about unreported shootings, it is important for the public to understand that while this system helps fill that gap, we do still expect the public and hope that the public will call us when they hear a shooting or feel that there's any kind of criminal activity going on. Do not depend solely on this technology because it is not everywhere in the county, and the technology, like any technology, is not perfect. So really, the best approach is a dual approach where we have both the public still reporting crime, and then we use this technology to fill the gaps. The second big benefit has to do with improving our patrol response. Last time I talked about how the technology is approximately 86% of the time the technology is faster than a traditional 911 call of the same incident. That still remains true now. We think the numbers are roughly the same. We're doing the new 2020 assessment now, but we think it's about the same. But in terms of improving patrol response, it's not only getting there faster, but it's also having a more accurate location of where the crime occurred. A lot of times when we receive a phone call from a citizen or a victim about a shooting, we go to where that person is. And that is not always where the shooting took place. And sometimes we miss key evidence, or sometimes we even miss the suspect. This provides us a more accurate location to be able to collect that evidence and hopefully in many cases, catch the suspect before they leave the scene. And then perhaps, maybe even more importantly, is when we do have some limited situations where a person is shot, we're able to get there faster to the right location and make sure they get aid before someone has to call the police or before they die before someone can call the police. So it increases our ability to really improve our patrol response. The last thing, that kind of general benefit that we've discovered, is it enhances our investigation significantly. So in a couple ways, last time I told you guys about the ability to collect more evidence. Because we are detecting more shootings, we're detecting the location more accurately and responding to them. Naturally, that results in more evidence for crimes that normally we would have never been able to know that occurred. The other aspect of it, though, is it also gives us the ability to investigate the actual shooting, because the sounds that are recorded give us some clues on the sequence of fire, potentially how many shooters there were, potentially where they were standing, and all of that information makes it very good for law enforcement to be able to catch the persons who committed the violence. And it also, I think, sends a message to those in the community that are willing to conduct illegal shootings at people or at structures in our populated areas that are very dangerous, that won't go unchecked. Essentially, we have more of an ability now to be able to investigate those crimes than we ever have in the past. Now, briefly for the expansion, we're looking at we're expanding from 2 focus areas to a total of approximately 8. Now, this map is just a generic. It shows you the generic areas that we intend to focus on. It doesn't show you the very specific coverage areas because we're still in the process of defining the borders and doing all the sensor installations. At this point, we know that these general areas is where we intend to focus.
So, Manly Bay's down here, I believe. Could be turned around, but I believe this might be the Manly Bay right here. Can't tell, but it's next to the airport. So I don't know, man. I mean, is that the festival ground right there? Oh, looks like it doesn't even cover that area.
It's not only the gunshot detection technology, but also our efforts in reducing gun violence within those areas. Now, a couple things that are important to mention of how we determine where this technology would be most valuable. First, we evaluated our persistent hotspots. As a police department, we measure crime very, very carefully, and we try to be as accurate as possible in determining where to put our resources.
And if you ever want to move to Vegas, here's a good map for you where not to live.
In this case, we have something called persistent hotspots, where we have years of data that show there's a violent crime occurring in those areas. We use that data to identify some general areas that we want to make sure we focus on. The second thing we did is we looked very specifically at shootings, illegal shootings that are happening in populated areas that are risking lives. And when we looked at that data, we wanted to focus on the specific areas where we have a high volume of shootings. And the third, in collaboration with the county commission, we wanted to make sure that this effort really benefits as many people in our community as possible, not just one side of the town or the other side of the town. And so what we wanted to do is look at the county districts, and we tried to make sure that where we focused it not only included our crime areas, but also areas where all of the citizens of our community, no matter what district they're from, get some kind of benefit in their district. Now, beyond that, the end result is one more back actually. So the end result of selecting those areas is we will now have coverage that will include the majority of our persistent hotspots. About 8.5 of the 11 persistent hotspots that we've had for many years will be covered using this technology. The only reason why the other persistent hotspots aren't being covered at this moment is because when we looked at that second factor of specifically gun violence or shootings, it wasn't as relevant in those areas. So for the most part, everywhere where we have high volume of shootings will be incorporated in our focus areas. The other thing that's worth noting is that at the end of the day, the commissioner said it's 23.5 square miles that we will have coverage. This technology works in a unique way where you don't need to have the entire county coverage. You just need to be more surgical in where is the actual shootings occurring, accomplish or gain coverage in those areas, and then you're able to eliminate the shootings that are happening all across the valley, because what we know, generally speaking, is that a lot of the shootings that happen in Clark County happen by a small number of individuals. And if we're able to figure out who those individuals are and prevent them from preying on the public and committing shootings, then ideally this will have a significant impact on the entire county. The other thing is a couple other efforts that we've added to this program that will be very instrumental this go around compared to the last one is we are adding some public safety cameras in our various focus areas. We've learned over the past few years that the public safety cameras are not only welcome by the public, but they are proving extremely useful in preventing violence. And so you'll see some of these camera towers, what you see on your left here, that we'll put in some areas where we have the gunshot detection technology. And ideally, when you combine the two, you're able to not only detect the shooting and where it happened, but also collect evidence of who conducted the shooting in certain situations. The other effort that is critically important that we did do during the pilot, but we did it on a small scale, we plan on expanding it quite a bit this go around, is the public partnership side. What you see there is a door hanger, and it basically indicates to the person that a shooting occurred in the area, the gunshot detection system caught the shooting. If you have information about the shooting, please call us. But also, even if you don't have information, know that we were here and know that we care. That's essentially what that message sends.
No, what that tells you is, oh shit, I live in a bad area.
And when you talk about some of the communities that have a high number of shootings, many of which have gone unreported for a variety of reasons, and they get this kind of message from the police department, it tells them that we understand what they're going through.
Yeah, sure you do. Man, this guy's so full of shit.
We're not willing to accept it as a way of life within Clark County, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to address it. And we've discovered that that carries a tremendous amount of weight, because now citizens who used to call us but thought we weren't doing anything about it, or were afraid of calling us on a shooting, now feel like the police are actually doing something about some of these shootings that were happening in certain populated areas.
Yeah, I believe it.
The other thing I'll talk about real briefly is the timeline. Just very briefly, we're in October now. We're defining the areas, doing the sensor installations, and starting the policy development within the police department, as well as the training. We'll also move into, once we move into November and December, we'll finalize that work, essentially the installation work, the training. We'll also conduct something called live fire tests. You'll see some media messaging about this when it gets closer. We did it the first time in the pilot program, but we want the public to know that when we conduct this test, you'll know. And what that will be is we'll be in certain focus areas, testing and calibrating the system. So you'll get a notice, but ultimately you'll hear gunfire that is in a controlled, safe environment. Beyond that, we'll be adding the supporting technology such as the cameras. And then we'll also be conducting the initial launch of the system in all of the focus areas. In January, February, we'll be doing the evaluation and the adjustment. So once we launch the technology, there's always little gaps that we missed, and that's where we'll add more sensors, or the vendor will add more sensors where they're needed, and then we'll adjust policies and training to make sure that we're ready to say that we've completed the project. And then ultimately, once we've completed the project, we'll fully leverage not only the detection, but all of the data that's collected to be able to prevent the violent crime from happening. And then I guess the last thing I'd briefly like to just talk about is the goals of the effort. So the initial goals, one, is we do want to detect more shootings, and we know that the system is capable of doing so. Two, we want to solve more crime. I can tell you that just a very basic comparison of one of our prior focus areas, we had a 26.4% reduction in violent crime within a 6-month period in that very specific area. Now, we cannot attribute it solely to the gunshot detection system, but we can tell you that that definitely played a role in reducing that violent crime. So we're hopeful that that second goal will be very easy.
I don't buy that. I mean, that's this guy's job to make this look good. Yeah, I don't know.
Easily achieved as we are able to reduce more violent crime. Then the other goal there is to catch serial shooters. So these are individuals who conduct multiple shootings. This technology, combined with other law enforcement efforts that we have, give us the ability now to catch some of these serial shooters more than we've ever had in the past. That's important because, as I mentioned to you before, a lot of our crime is occurring, a small number of people are responsible for a large number of crime. And if we can eliminate, if we can arrest and remove them from the equation, then ultimately our crime goes down. And then also the last thing is that improving community trust. The commissioner and Captain LaRochelle both talked about that being a critical component of this. That is very true. We have neighborhoods that, as I mentioned earlier, have had persistent violence that maybe in some cases they feel like it's been ignored. And we want to make sure that that is not the belief. And even if it is the belief, we're going to try to change that by showing that we care about those neighborhoods and we're going to prevent the violence that is occurring in your neighborhoods. The last slide here is just the ultimate vision, and it goes into what I just said about establishing that community trust and showing people that we care. Ultimately, the goal is to eliminate some of our persistent hotspots. What you see here is a map that just has some of the shootings that were detected by ShotSpotter during the last assessment. And you can see with the circles, that's a high number of confirmed shootings. So these are ones where we actually confirmed. We went out there and we found evidence, found a shooter, found gun, found something. And ultimately, if you see in some of those pockets, they're not more than a quarter square mile or less, and you can have 20, 25 shootings that happen in 9 months. I think anyone in this room and anyone listening, that they would firmly agree that that is absolutely unacceptable. If that was happening in your neighborhood, your apartment complex, to have 20 or 25 shootings happen in 9 months, you would say that is absolutely unacceptable.
I'd say move the fuck out.
And even though we've had tremendous success in reducing violent crime throughout Las Vegas as a whole, there are certain pockets where we now want to perfect things and make sure we eliminate those as persistent hotspots. That's the ultimate vision. So out of the 11 persistent hotspots we have, we hope that within a number of 2 or 3 years of this particular expansion, we'll be able to say that we have a lot less than we started with. With that, if there's any questions for the commissioner or Captain LaRochelle, or certainly any of the other commissioners that are here joining us and supporting, and then myself would be happy to take any questions.
How is the expansion being funded?
So that's an excellent question. So, Commissioner, I think right person to answer is probably the commission.
So what I would tell you is Clark County set aside some dollars for technology within our budget this last cycle, and so this is one of the priorities that the county commission stepped up to fund for 3 years.
It's got a grill.
And then if I'm understanding correctly, the technology should be fully implemented in those hotspots by December?
So we'll launch, we hope, some of it is dependent on the installation work and the training and policy development. We hope to launch in November, and then we hope to have it finalized by January, February at the latest. So what we mean is the system will hopefully be active by November. Police officers will be responding to those violent crimes, but ultimately there will be probably some gaps. The system will miss some of the shootings and we'll have to adjust things. So the final launch will occur in January or February.
Doesn't sound very reliable.
As far as, yes, there's going to be a lot of new sensors and things out there and police responding to these things. Is there a personnel component on your end, the way you staff these new areas? What does that look like for you all here in the building?
So ultimately, we anticipate identifying approximately 1,000 more shootings in a year. That's a substantial amount of crime that is probably going undetected. And so ultimately, what we are shifting our resources the best we can to deal with that. What we have right now as a part of the procedure is when people respond to this because of the level of potential violence, we send a certain amount of officers and a supervisor to each scene. We plan on continuing that and reassessing it as we go. But ultimately, in terms of widespread manpower allocation, did you want to add anything else in terms of the department allocation?
Part of the identifying the hotspots and putting resources as quickly as possible on the problem after we pinpoint the exact location is the department went to a decentralization model 3-4 years ago, and that has pushed detectives out to those area commands. And so those detectives are closer to the problem area than they ever before, and they're responsible for the follow-up to the shootings. So that caseload, shootings, goes to the detectives that are situated at each area command. The captains are well aware of them. They're priority investigations, and they're ensured that they're followed up on.
I guess maybe my question would be, when the sound is recorded or picked up by the sensors, you have someone literally physically listen to that sound.
So the way that it works is the vendor has an instant review center that's national. They'll capture each sound. They have a human expert listens to it. Their resource allocation will remain as they plan. However, on our end, we do anticipate a workload not only for the patrol officers responding to more.
So they're trying to get out of this guy. Like, how much more money is this going to cost us? Like, where's the money coming from? How much more money is this going to be? And they're kind of skirting around that. But they said they're not adding officers for it. So I guess, but he's saying something about the company itself is going to be monitoring ShotSpotter. So, yeah, they're spending money on that.
More shootings, but as you indicate, we will have our Fusion Watch unit listening to more of those alerts. They will be broadcasting more alerts. Our dispatchers and communication will have to create more events than they're used to. And then the final piece is the patrol officers and the detectives, as they respond and investigate the matter, will create an increase in workload. The best answer we can give you right now is, as we launch in January, February, part of the project management team is to assess that workload and determine if we have to shift resources. And certainly if it requires more police officers, as certainly we've discovered, as the sheriff has said, more police officers definitely make a difference in preventing crime and addressing crime. And so as we detect more crime, we'll be providing that assessment to the sheriff and go from there.
Is there any possibility that these can be physically tampered with? I'm just trying to understand the physicality of where it exactly would be in those hotspots.
So the way that they're installed is in a manner that makes it extremely difficult to tamper with them, and that they also have some security measures in place that if they are tampered with, the vendor is aware of it, and ultimately we're able to make the fixes and prevent it from happening. So highly doubt that anyone will be able to, and we certainly encourage folks not to try to tamper with them, because they will get arrested if they destroy the property or tamper with the property. And then the other thing that's, since we're just on the sensors, one thing that it's important to mention, that we talked about it last time, but I think it's critical to say again, is this particular technology, and quite frankly, every other technology we deploy within the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, we are very careful about balancing our effectiveness with privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. This technology, there's an assessment nationally about how concerning this technology could be for privacy, and this received an extremely low rating, that there's very, very low concern from a privacy perspective. Part of the reason for that, just so the public understands, is the sensors do not automatically record. They're not designed to record conversations. The police can't turn them on to record conversations. Ultimately, they are triggered by an impulse sound that resembles gunfire, only in populated areas. So for those that are conducting shootings in places where they're allowed to conduct shootings, like training or things like that, those, A, we don't have sensors there. B, those aren't designed for that. Ultimately, this is in areas where we know people are getting shot, people are getting hurt. Those sensors are only designed to trigger and record the specific audio regarding the impulse sounds. So from a privacy standpoint, we're very comfortable that there's no intrusion, or very, very tiny bit of intrusion, and that we are able to manage that with good policy, good oversight, and to make sure that we are only using that very tiny bit of data that records audio of gunshots to address the shootings, and that's it.
Does the technology bleed into Henderson and North Las Vegas, or it's just in Las Vegas?
So some of the technology borders North Las Vegas. We are partnering with them to deal with any alerts that would happen close to our border with them. Ultimately, right now, there's not a border to Henderson PD, I believe. But I do believe that there is conversation within their agencies as well about evaluating the potential use of this technology in their jurisdictions.
And I think that's because Henderson's actually the nice part of Vegas. So I don't got to worry about it as much.
How long will the recordings live for? How long do you guys plan to have them stay in the archive?
So the vendor is the one that completes the recording and captures it and owns the data. We receive a copy of it for the purpose of identifying a shooting. So for example, any of the other recordings that don't relate to a shooting, we don't receive. And then ultimately, the ones that we use, we only use for the purpose of prosecution or dealing with the crime. So they're not, it's not necessarily a concern of purging the data because it's the vendor that has the data. And I can't speak to how long they maintain their set of data.
All right. I was just curious. But yeah, it sounds like bullshit. I mean, that's a little unnerving that the LVMPD is outsourcing this bullshit. So, like, some company that runs ShotSpotter are the ones that get to hear the gunshots or whatever, and then they have to make a call to the LVMPD. Does not sound completely efficient unless they have people actually working in their fusion center that are listening to this crap and working directly with, you know, the LVMPD, as opposed to some dipshit in an office downtown somewhere. And, well, not downtown, but, you know, out there in the outskirts somewhere, you know, and then having to call the LVMPD. I mean, at that point, their whole idea of this is faster than 911 just goes out the fucking window. So, I don't know. That was a lot of minutia, a lot of bullshit, but I was just kind of curious what this was about. And again, I didn't want to watch it twice, so that's it for this one. Have a good day, and I'm out of here.